Welcome to the Smart Entrepreneur Show, the podcast where we share smart ideas, strategies, and lessons to help entrepreneurs build better businesses. As an entrepreneur, it often feels like there's never enough time. Too many tasks, too many ideas, and not enough hours in the day. But what if you could do more in less time without feeling overwhelmed? In today's episode, we'll explore practical time management strategies that successful entrepreneurs use to stay productive and focused. If you want to get more done, reduce stress, and grow your business faster, this episode is for you. Let's get started.
I am so ready for this one.
Me too. And as we jump right into today's deep dive, I think we really need to establish our core mission right out of the gate because, we're unpacking this foundational truth today from our sources that is, honestly, it's incredibly liberating.
It really is.
The ultimate goal here isn't figuring out some magical way to unlock, 25 hours in a day. It is entirely about learning how to use the time you already have better. We're going to figure out exactly how the most successful business builders manage that shift, transforming all that chaos of the daily grind into actual scalable progress.
Yeah, and that really is the most crucial distinction to make because it frames the entire problem we're trying to solve today. I mean, we constantly see entrepreneurs conflating being busy with being effective.
Oh, all the time.
It is incredibly easy to fall into that trap, right? Believing that just because your calendar looks like a chaotic game of Tetris and you're totally exhausted by 6 in the evening, you must be moving the needle.
Right, like exhaustion equals success.
Exactly. But exhaustion is not a metric of success.
Right.
And the frameworks we're examining today provide a very clear, actionable roadmap to fix that exact disconnect.
So before we can even begin to talk about specific time-saving tactics or, software tools or scheduling hacks, we first need to define what exactly you should be spending your time on, right?
Yes.
The critical first step, prioritizing what actually matters most.
We have to separate focusing on high-impact tasks, the things that actually move the business forward, from merely doing, busy work.
Because if you are extremely efficient at doing the wrong things, you are still failing.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Think about the energy expenditure. It takes just as much caloric effort to spin your wheels as it does to drive forward.
I love thinking about it like going to the gym. Doing busy work is exactly like running on a treadmill. You are moving your legs fast, your heart rate is maxed out, you are sweating profusely.
And you are completely destroyed by the end of it.
Exactly. You feel like you worked incredibly hard, but then you look around and you're in the exact same spot you were an hour ago. You haven't actually gone anywhere. Right. Whereas focusing on high-impact tasks is like running toward a specific destination. You might be sweating just as much. The physical effort might be
identical.
Yeah. But when you stop, the scenery has changed. You have actually advanced your position.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because, that sounds great in theory. But when you're an entrepreneur, literally everything feels urgent.
Oh, absolutely everything.
And I'm not talking about minor inconveniences like a jammed office printer. I'm talking about a major client threatening to churn or your payment gateway integration breaking right in the middle of a massive product launch.
The real fires.
Exactly. How do you actually, in practice, separate the high-impact tasks from the busy work? Because from the inside of the storm, everything just looks like a fire that needs putting out right now.
That is the core struggle every founder faces, frankly. And the answer really lies in the necessity of setting clear daily and weekly goals.
Okay, so goals are the filter.
Yes, goal setting acts as your objective filter. When everything feels urgent, you need a standard to measure those panic tasks against. If you've clearly defined your weekly goal, let's say it's finalizing the sales copy for that new product launch, then every single task that crosses your desk has to pass through that filter.
Does it move the needle on the sales copy?
Exactly.
Right.
Does jumping into a 45-minute debate in a team channel about the font on the new company letterhead move that product launch forward? Absolutely not.
So the goal is the destination for the run.
And without it, you are navigating without a compass. You just default to whatever is screaming the loudest in your inbox.
Yeah, the loudest fire alarm.
Right. By setting clear goals, you strip the emotion and the panic out of the moment-to-moment decision-making. You've pre-decided what is high impact when your mind was calm and strategic.
Rather than trying to figure it out when your adrenaline is spiking.
Precisely.
But, identifying that high-impact work is totally useless if your calendar is an open door. Once you have the compass and you know what you're supposed to be focusing on, we have to talk about how you physically structure your day. Just to make sure those things actually get done.
Right, transitioning from mindset to hard strategy.
Let's look at the mathematical strategy behind this.
Well, the math here is fascinating because it is so heavily skewed.
Oh.
When you look at the data on how top founders operate, you inevitably run into the 80-20 rule.
Also known as the Pareto principle.
Exactly, the Pareto principle.
Most of you listening probably already know the 80-20 rule. It's the idea that 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts.
Right.
But knowing it and actually trusting it enough to ignore 80% of the noise are two very, very different things.
Oh, the execution gap there is massive. Let's think about the weight of that principle in a real business context. It means that the vast majority of what you do during the day is yielding a disproportionately small amount of your success.
That is a terrifying thought.
It is, but you must identify those specific key activities, that magical 20%, and ruthlessly focus your energy on them.
How does an entrepreneur actually audit that, though? How do they find the 20%? Because, often the 20% is the hardest, most intimidating work.
Oh, always. It's the strategic vision, the deep problem solving.
And we naturally avoid it by hiding behind the easy 80%. Answering emails and tweaking spreadsheets.
Yeah, well, you have to look at your data, not your feelings. If you run a service business, audit your revenue, you will almost always find that 20% of your clients are generating 80% of your profits.
Okay.
Conversely, the bottom 20% of your clients are probably causing 80% of your customer service headaches.
Oh, that is so true.
Right. And once you identify that, the instruction from our sources is explicit. You double down on the top tier and you stop catering to the bottom tier. You have to let the bottom tier go.
Wow. It's almost unsettling to realize that you could probably cut out a huge chunk of your workday, and your business wouldn't just survive, it might actually thrive.
Because you'd be doubling down on the things that actually matter.
But knowing what the 20% is really only half the battle. You have
Yeah.
to physically execute it. Which brings us to the mechanism that makes this possible. Time blocking.
Yes. Planning your day in blocks of focused work.
And importantly, contrasting time blocking directly against its negative alternative, which is multitasking. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
Because I think people completely misunderstand what time blocking really is. They think it's just like color-coding your Google Calendar so it looks pretty.
Right, just making it look organized.
Yeah. I like to think of time blocking like making a reservation at an incredibly exclusive, fancy restaurant. But you are making the reservation for your own brain.
Ooh, I like that.
When you book a table at a Michelin star restaurant for 8 p.m., you don't casually invite 3 other groups of friends to show up and sit at the exact same table at the exact same time.
It would be absolute chaos.
You wouldn't double book a dinner table. The waiters would be crashing into each other, the conversations would be a mess, and you couldn't enjoy the meal. So why on earth would you double book your attention with multitasking?
What's fascinating here is how that analogy perfectly illustrates the biological reality of focus.
How so?
Well, the 80-20 rule tells you what to order at that restaurant. It identifies the high-impact tasks. Time blocking provides the actual structural container that protects the task.
Ah, the reservation itself.
Yes, and your point about multitasking is critical. We need to completely dismantle the myth of multitasking.
It is a myth, isn't it?
Entirely.
Yeah.
The human brain is simply not designed for parallel processing when it comes to high-level cognitive tasks. When you attempt to multitask, you are actually doing 2 things at once.
You're just switching back and forth really fast.
Exactly. You are rapidly context switching between them.
And you are paying a massive tax every time you switch. I've read studies about attention residue.
Yes, attention residue.
When you switch from writing a strategic proposal to checking a quick Slack message and then back to the proposal, part of your brain is still stuck thinking about the Slack message.
It drains your energy, it increases your error rate, and it destroys the depth of focus required to execute those vital 20% tasks.
So you need the blocks.
The brain thrives in focus blocks. It needs that dedicated, protected space to reach the level of deep work where real value is created. Time blocking is literally building walls around your attention.
Like saying, do not disturb.
Exactly. You're deciding from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., I do not exist to the outside world. I am only working on this one strategic objective.
Okay, but let's talk about what happens when you build those walls. Because once you've created these pristine, beautiful 80-20 time blocks on your calendar, the real world is inevitably going to try to blast right through them.
Yes, it will.
The world does not respect your calendar.
It absolutely will not until you force it to. And this is where we move from offense to defense. You have to actively defend your focus.
The insights we're diving into are very direct about this. They specifically call out the need to avoid distractions. And I appreciate that it gets granular. It explicitly warns against unnecessary scrolling on platforms like Facebook and Instagram during work hours.
It's a vital call-out because social media is engineered by thousands of brilliant developers to fracture your attention.
Right, it's designed to break those walls.
Exactly. When you hit a difficult moment in one of your time blocks, say, when the strategic planning gets incredibly hard and the cognitive friction is high, your brain naturally looks for an escape hatch.
And that phone sitting on your desk is the ultimate escape hatch.
It offers a quick, unearned hit of dopamine.
Yeah, exactly.
But giving in to that entirely shatters the focus block you worked so hard to set up. You have to remove the temptation completely. Put the phone in another room. Use software to block distracting sites on your computer during those hours.
But it's not just internal distractions like reaching for the phone. It's the external demands of the business itself.
The constant pings, the request from your team, the minor operational fires.
Right. And we have two incredibly powerful shields against those external demands, according to the sources: delegating and automating.
Yes, using tools to automate repetitive processes or outsourcing tasks entirely so you can preserve your cognitive load for what truly matters.
Now, I have to play the devil's advocate here for you listening because I know exactly how this feels. Delegating sounds amazing on a deep dive, right?
Yeah, in theory.
But for a lot of entrepreneurs, letting go feels like losing control of the baby you built. I remember talking to a founder who spent 4 hours coding a promotional web banner just to save $50 on a freelancer platform.
Oh, wow.
Right. Meanwhile, because he was doing that, he ignored a follow-up email that could have landed him a $10,000 contract.
That is painful to hear.
But in his head, he was thinking, it's just faster and cheaper to do it myself right now. Isn't delegation sometimes a trap? I mean, don't things just bounce back to you anyway?
Well, it feels like a trap in the micro moment, yes. Because it does take longer to train someone the very first time.
You have to build the systems.
Right. You have to build standard operating procedures so the task doesn't just bounce back to you. But failing to delegate is devastating in the macro.
How so?
To answer that pushback, we simply connect delegation right back to the 80-20 rule. If you are doing tasks that fall outside of your high-impact 20%, like a CEO coding a web banner, you are actively harming your business.
Even if you're fast at it.
Even if you are doing those tasks incredibly quickly.
Because of the opportunity cost.
Exactly. Every hour you spend doing a low-leverage task that a piece of software could automate or a virtual assistant could handle is an hour stolen away from the high-leverage tasks that only you, the founder, can do. You are fundamentally misallocating your company's most valuable resource, which is your focused attention.
That reframing is so powerful. It's not, I'm passing this off because I'm lazy. It's, I am legally obligated by the goals of my business to not touch this task.
Yes. Delegation isn't about losing control. It's about gaining leverage. You are trading money or time up front to buy back your capacity to focus on the 20% forever.
And when it comes to automation, the tools available today are staggering.
Unbelievable. If you are manually sending onboarding emails to new clients or manually transferring data from a spreadsheet to your CRM, you are bleeding time.
Right. Build the system once and let the software do the busy work.
Exactly.
But, a great strategy on paper falls apart if you can't execute it on a wet Tuesday morning when you're tired.
Right.
Strategies and defenses are really only as good as the daily habits that sustain them. So let's move from theory into the day-to-day reality of maintaining this level of productivity over the long haul.
Right. There are 3 very specific essential habits from the text that keep you grounded here. First, starting your day with a clear plan. Second, taking short breaks to stay fresh. And third, tracking your progress.
And those habits are balanced against 3 incredibly dangerous, common mistakes that absolutely ruin time management: trying to do everything at once, a lack of planning, and overworking without rest.
You can see how they mirror each other perfectly. Starting with a clear plan directly neutralizes the mistake of lacking a plan.
Right.
Tracking your progress prevents the mistake of trying to do everything at once, because tracking forces you to confront reality. You can visibly see the bottleneck when you are taking on too much, which triggers you to delegate.
So what does this all mean? When you look at the habits and the mistakes together, there's this massive, glaring paradox.
What's the paradox?
In order to get more done, to be highly productive, you have to actively stop working. You have to take short breaks. And you must avoid overworking without rest. This is completely counterintuitive to the prevailing hustle culture that most entrepreneurs are swimming in. We're constantly told to grind, sleep when you're dead, work 24/7.
And hustle culture is one of the most toxic myths in the business world because it completely ignores human biology.
Right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the logic of resting becomes undeniable. Remember those pristine, focused time blocks we talked about earlier?
The ones dedicated to your most difficult, highest impact 20% tasks.
Right, the restaurant reservation for your brain.
Exactly.
The cognitive energy required to operate effectively inside those blocks is immense. Deep, strategic work depletes your prefrontal cortex. You just can't sustain that level of output indefinitely.
Burn out.
It really would. When you commit the mistake of overworking without rest, the quality of your focus degrades rapidly. You might still be sitting at your desk, you might still be typing, but you have transitioned from doing high-impact work right back into doing busy work.
Because your brain is too fatigued to execute at a high level. You're just back on the treadmill.
You are back on the treadmill, but you are convincing yourself you are being productive just because you are tired.
Wow.
Taking short breaks to stay fresh isn't a reward for getting work done. It is a mechanical requirement for keeping the next time block effective. It prevents burnout.
It's treating yourself like an elite athlete.
Mm-hmm.
An Olympic sprinter doesn't sprint constantly for 24 hours straight.
No, they'd collapse.
They sprint, they recover, they evaluate their form, and then they sprint again. That is how records are broken.
Hustle culture values motion over progress. Smart time management values progress over motion. Taking a 10-minute walk away from your screens might be the most productive thing you do all day if it resets your focus for the next block.
Which brings us perfectly to the ultimate takeaway from today's deep dive.
Yeah.
If you take absolutely nothing else away from this discussion, we want you to remember this clear distillation from the sources.
Right.
Smart time management is not about being busy. It is entirely about being productive and intentional.
It's about designing a day that serves your business, rather than letting your business dictate your day.
Exactly.
And before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
We've talked a lot about goals and blocks and high-impact tasks, but let's look at reality. If your calendar reflects your true priorities, what would a total stranger think your business is about if they looked at your schedule today?
Oof. That is a heavy question.
It is.
Let that one sink in as you look at your plans for tomorrow.
Oh.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Smart Entrepreneur Show, make sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss future episodes. And feel free to share your thoughts or experiences in the comments.